sad. I feel very, very sad. And I think every religious leader in Nigeria today should be very, very sad. But what keeps me hoping for a better future is that there is a greater population of Nigerian youth who want to do well than the youth who want to follow in the stead of the looters of the economy. Nigeria is running ahead of itself. Rather than build a foolproof democratic process that individuals, no matter how wealthy they are, cannot cheat. We are busy running from one election to the other. For me, this is what church is supposed to be doing in the lives of people. Instead, I see ministers of God focus on making millions, living large, conducting motivational talks that don't change the character of people. If anything can give me joy, like my own biological family, it's my spiritual family. Not money in a bank account. I give all into my ministry. Now, you see, people don't understand that the difference between a ministry and a church is that in a church, people are wired to bring plenty of money to church. They are not that wired in ministry. If politicians can see church as a place to go and flash money, then church cannot help the country. So to make church help the country, we must go back to modest living. We must not be seen promoting prosperity. We should be seen promoting righteousness, salvation. It does not mean that we will not have rich people amongst us, but then we will be promoting rich people with integrity, not rich people that are looting.
Well, it's another very wonderful, lovely day in the city of Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa, as we meet a great man of leadership, a man of ideas, a man of impeccable achievements, a man who has contributed to the body of journalism, a man who has equally contributed to the body of youth leadership in Nigeria, a man who has also contributed to the body of Bible leadership in terms of ecclesiastical development, especially among the denomination in Celestial Church of Christ. He's a great man, a journalist, an author, a thinker, a doer. We've been trying to reach him in the last 6 months, going to 7 months now, and he's been so very busy. He has ministries here in Nigeria. He also has outreaches in London, in Germany, and most of the time is either he's busy attending to a leadership lecture somewhere, or he's on an invitation to attend to a program in some of the offshore outreaches of his ministry. We are talking of the man, Dr. Kunle Hamilton, the founder of Shaddaiville Leadership Center, and one of the leaders in the Nigerian media industry. He was the one that single-handedly created the Octane pull-out magazine called GLITERRATI in THISDAY Newspaper many years ago. And by the time he retired from journalism after 3 decades plus, he went into youth leadership development and into some clerical activities. We are privileged to be in his ambience today, somewhere in Lagos, and we thank God for this time. Daddy, we are so honored to be with you today, sir. We want to start by wishing you a very wonderful long life, and want to ask you that why have you been so very, I don't want to say elusive, why have you been so scarce in the last 7 months? We've tried to reach out to you, but most of the time it's either you are busy out of the country, or even when you're in the country, you are engaged with one thing or the other. Why have you been so scarce, sir?
Thank you. It's so good to see you again, Benga.
Thank you, sir.
And I admire the work that Sabe Africa TV has been doing.
God bless you, sir.
Let me commend the change you have brought into how government agencies engage with the Nigerian society, how you have enforced morals into the activity of government. And I just pray also that the good Lord will continue to protect and provide for you and your team.
Amen, sir. God bless you, Daddy. God bless you so much, sir.
I don't think I have deliberately tried to be elusive. I've heard people say that making money is difficult, and those who make a lot of money are extremely busy. Maybe they are correct, but I can tell you that the life of a minister of the gospel, any minister of the gospel that is genuinely called out and has passion for humanity, our lives are more difficult to manage, and the difference between us and those who are making money, let me put it this way, the difference between those who are making people and those who are making money is that we get very, very busy, but we then begin to trust God for finances. Whereas those who are making money call that busy, but the reward is such that you often will forget that you've been busy. In a nutshell, I think that's a poor attempt at making a joke, but that's the truth. Ministry life is busy.
But you see, you really struck me with something now, and I want to believe, because it's something that a lot of young people should know. You said there is a difference between those who are busy making money and those who are busy developing people. Because you see, in this part of the world we are now, a lot of people talk about it's about money. I saw somebody the other day who was telling me that, oh, you are doing well with your channel, you're supposed to have met a lot of big people, that if you meet somebody like Esther Ajayi, just a handshake is 10 million. And I keep wondering that, is it all about money? All about money. So can you tell us what is the balance between the success of money and the success of moral leadership? Is there any correlation?
Things are really bad in Nigeria today. And it is because of this mentality that money makes everything. It's not true. When you're too focused on money, it's not possible for you to be focused on humanity. It's not possible for you to be focused on godly things, because the spirit behind money, when it is not being raised for the effort of improving people's lives, the spirit behind money is evil. But when you put money to work for God, then the spirit behind money can be good. Nigeria as a country, from the level of corporate governance and political governance, needs to put money in the right perspective and not make it the focus, so that people can become the focus of the country again. I mean, our politicians, from the evidence I have seen, in the last 20, 30 years, they have moved away from the real intention behind politics. Politics in itself is not evil. But when evil men get into politics, they want money for the sake of personal enjoyment. So they're not thinking about the people, they're not thinking about the future of the country. When you look at countries like Singapore, where Christianity is not the foundation, countries who claim to be religious like ours should be ashamed. Because the leadership of Singapore is people-focused, future-focused. The leadership in Nigeria is now-focused. The money we can make now. And the only future they're looking at is, let's steal enough money so that 5 generations after us, in our own family alone, will have enough money to spend. Nothing can be more evil than that.
What you said now about Singapore, and especially under Lee Kuan Yew and the development, it also tells us much about the issue with deep pockets and deep thoughts. You see that in Nigeria now, we're talking about the situation whereby every 4 years, people look out for people with deep pockets than people with deep thoughts. And you see a place whereby the politicians can dash you 4,000 naira, 2 derika of rice, some few packets of Indomie noodle, and maybe 4 yards of Ankara, and you have to throw your vote in. And 4 years after that, 4 years in between, you cannot have access to the politician again. So is there a difference between deep thoughts and deep pockets? And why do you think our nation has sunk to that dubious level of seeking after deep pockets instead of people with deep thinking?
A lot of deep pocket people are the ones who have crazy money. You see, when you have crazy money, if you come under probe, you're likely to be seen to have only shallow thoughts. People with shallow thoughts who focus on just making money for enjoyment, they can kill to make that kind of money. They can destroy other people's lives to make that kind of money. But people with deep thoughts, they eventually will make money too. But they're thinking humanity. They're thinking with the fear of the Lord of the universe, regardless of whichever religion they belong to. And they get very philosophical about everything. When you're philosophical about everything, when you think deeply about life, then you will be able to put money in its right place. An errand boy. Money becomes something you send around to get things done. You do not respect the money, you respect the people for which you make the money work. And that's the way it should be across political landscapes, religious landscapes, spiritual landscapes. You need that kind of mindset. Be labeled a deep thinker rather than a deep pocket.
It's better to be labeled a deep thinker rather than a deep pocket. That is very, very significant to me. I think I'm hearing it for the first time, sir. But being a father and being a leader, from your Shaddaiville Leadership Center, you have generated almost more than 1,000 young people spent around the Nigerian political and productive environment. But today, when you wake up and you read about the stories of young people who have become lotto addicts, ogogoro addicts, marijuana addicts, and even women addicts and all that, how do you feel as a father, as a leader, and as a manager of human resources?
Very sad. I feel very, very sad. And I think every religious leader in Nigeria today should be very, very sad. But what keeps me hoping for a better future is that there is a greater population of Nigerian youth who want to do well than the youth who want to follow in the stead of the looters of the economy. I am beginning to engage with Nigerian youth who have had education abroad. I'm not talking about the ones whose fathers or mothers stole money to send them abroad, because that also has an influence in the lives of such children. Because no matter the degrees you pick up outside our shores, what has influenced your character will affect how you put the degree to work in your mental state. But the children of middle-class Nigerians, or those who, by dint of hard work, won scholarships, found themselves with education abroad, I've been engaging with them, and what I have found out that cheers me up is that on their own, somehow, and I believe this is God working in them, on their own, somehow, they have decided that no matter the prospects, how good the prospects of living outside Nigeria and earning outside Nigeria may be, you don't have a true sense of honor until you come and lend your expertise, lend your knowledge to the growth of your own country. They have realized that they are more honorable seeing themselves as Africans, as Nigerians, than the flashpoints of being called British Nigerians or American Nigerians or even Chinese Nigerians. And this cheers my heart. Another set of Nigerian youth that I'm engaging with, some of whom have been through our own leadership tutelage, are those who are currently living abroad but practicing the ideals they learned in our school. And they're giving me feedback that even Americans, Canadians, Britons, Europeans, engage with them and ask them, aren't you a Nigerian? And say, yes, of course I'm a Nigerian, but how come you can think and act like this? And they say to their colleagues at work that something changed their perspective after leaving the university or leaving the polytechnic. 6 months of leadership training, which we have also scaled down now to just 8 weeks. We have, when we started, our modules were taught in a year, then 6 months. Then we started doing 3 months. And we're doing course 18 now, which has been reduced to 8 weeks. But it's 8 weeks of committed learning.
So people said it's rigorous as well.
Very, very much so. I mean, for example, in our leadership school, the pass mark is 60%. I know that the pass mark in a lot of Nigerian universities and polytechnics is 45.
That's crazy.
Because 45% will give you a C, and that's pass. Whereas here, our C is 60%. If you get 59, you'll redo the exam. If you get 59 again, you go and queue for the following set.
So I want to ask you this question because I've seen a lot of your products I will also say I'm part of a product, though I didn't come into the class rigorously, but most of the time,
executive MBA.
but most of the time I used to come in those days, I used to wonder how you are able, I mean, the kind of, what can I call it, leniency, the kind of temperament that you use to gather all these young people, most of them children of middle class, and most especially what caught my interest is that some of them are even women, beautiful, lovely young women, and some of them are men as usual, and some of them are in different companies now. I remember that before the man died, the owner of DMT Mobile Toilet, Otuba Gaddafi, employed one of your students here, and the man is still the manager in the last 10 years now. So I want to ask you, how did you get that tendency? How did you develop it to train these young people and to change their orientation, especially in a hostile environment, in a fraud-rated environment like Nigeria, whereby everything is about money and material wealth?
Vega, thank you so much for recalling this. You know, I sat in this same office, but the furniture back then was older than this and all that. I was 5 years into the Shaddaiville ministries. By the way, we have also the Celestial Church of Christ, Praiseville, which we started 3 years ago in Nigeria, about 5 years ago in Berlin. But we started with the Shaddaiville ministries, and 5 years into that, I sat in this office and the Holy Spirit ministered to me that it's time to start doing leadership training. I was alone here, and the way I responded to the leading of the Spirit was me, leadership training. I said to the Holy Spirit, remember, my name is Kunle Hamilton. I am not John Maxwell. I mentioned those names. I said, I'm not John Maxwell. I am not Miles Monroe. God bless his spirit. He's gone now. And I heard in the Spirit that I know. But if you allow me, I'll teach you myself what to teach the leadership students I want you to start raising. So I think I'm a slow learner because we're dealing with 12 modules. And back then in 2007, that's when we started. Yeah. It will take me 1 whole month to understand what God wants me to understand about one module. Then I will call the students and say, class is next Sunday. I will teach them. Then it will take me another 1 month. Now, people do not understand that the things that will endure, that are good, they take time to build. I mean, Jesus expressed outwardly the fullness of his ministry in just 3 years. But it took him 30 years to prepare for the 3-year ministry. Nigeria is running ahead of itself. Rather than build a foolproof democratic process that individuals, no matter how wealthy they are, cannot cheat. We are busy running from one election to the other. Now, secondly is the fact that although it took us a whole year to teach and then graduate our pioneer set, there were 52 of them. And today they form the superstructure of our ministry. The gentleman you mentioned, his name is Lanre Akinwale. I am extremely proud of him. And the story that I never shared with you that I think the public should know is that in 2008, when Lanre Akinwale and 51 others were graduating, we went to hire the space of Maranatha Pavilion Ministries that belonged to my late friend, Dr. Mololo Oladoshu. He said, no, I don't want money. I said, if you don't take the money as a hiring cost for your hall, take it as a gift. But I will not use this for free. I remember back then, we gave him 100,000 naira. That is the value. I mean, 100,000 then is about $1 million now.
Of course, sir.
That is the value I place on my human relationships. Then I invited late Otuba Gaddafi, founder of DMT Mobile Toilets, as a special guest of honor. I remember that he did not get to the venue because he traveled back into Lagos that day until maybe 20 minutes to the end. At that time, we were presenting certificates. The chairman of the occasion was Evangelist Moraki Ojolakpamo, who has since left Celestial Church. And we were presenting certificates when Gaddafi came in. You know, very tall guy, 7 feet tall. Gaddafi asked me, are you saying that these gentlemen and ladies in suit are Celestians? He says, I have never seen this kind of picture of Celestians. Now, the learning point from that, for me, is that even Celestians do not understand that whether you're wearing sutana or you're wearing mufti, it does not change your identity as a Celestian. So when you're a mufti, remember that you're an ambassador of Christ and an ambassador of the church, and do not let people take what you say and how you behave to run down the church. So for Gaddafi, so these guys I see in Sultana can look this corporate in suit. He took a decision that day and said, I'm keeping open 3 vacancies for any 3 of these graduates, because Kunle, I know you. If you're graduating these people, then you're putting your integrity behind them. Today, 3 people he was willing to hire that time. One of them now lives in Michigan, in America. Another is now stationed in Abuja doing great exploits in the Celestial Church. I know him too. Yes, the other one too is doing great exploits in Celestial Church in Michigan. Lanre is still with DMT. In the first 3 months of Lanre getting into the employment of DMT, Gaddafi increased his salary 3 times. He said he hasn't seen any employee work like he's working for his father.
In fact, I was aware that he gave him a car because we went for the end of the year at DMT. That time, I think they gave him a car.
In 6 months, he got an official car. In 1 year, Gaddafi gave him a personal car that he bought for him. And he kept saying after 1 year, Kunle, how did you train this guy like this? And before Gaddafi died, I was one of the last set of people to engage with him. He was already slowing down. He came back to this office looking and feeling very, very poorly. But he still told me that day, he said, Kunle, you know what? It's been a few years now since Lanre joined me. Nothing will give me more happiness than to see Lanre, who is not related to him, than to see Lanre take over my company as managing director. Gaddafi has been dead about 4 or 5 years now. And Benga, my testimony is that through this leadership training, through just one of my products, Lanre Akinwale, this week as I speak, has been confirmed as the managing director of that company.
Jesus Christ. Thank you, Lord Jesus. That's great, sir.
For me, this is what church is supposed to be doing in the lives of people. Instead, I see ministers of God focus on making millions, living large, conducting motivational talks that don't change the character of people. There is no mega church in Nigeria today, and I say this with a lot of modesty. You know, I'm not the kind of minister that comes on air and say, I performed this miracle, I did this. You understand?
Yes, sir.
If there is a testimony I want to share, it's a testimony of life change. Rather than a testimony of somebody was blind, now that person can see. We have an example. I prayed in the car. This young lady, I have never seen her till today. Just got to work, you know, the Jara Mall in Ikeja.
Yes, sir, Jara Mall, yeah.
Good. Their company is outsourced to work in that complex, not the Jara Mall itself, in that complex. She got to work, just bent down to pick something on the floor, and she came up blind.
Jesus Christ. Right.
Her boss, her immediate boss, is a member of my ministry. She called me in panic to say, "Daddy, I have never seen this before." The young girl that bent down and went blind immediately is an Igbo girl. My goddaughter is a Yoruba girl. Said, "Daddy, I've never seen this before. I just called Dr. So-and-so now and explained what happened. And the doctor said, just take her to Lassoth. Since Lassoth is close to the mall." Said, "But something said I should call you." I said, "Is the girl there?" I said, "Yes." I was driving. I just drove up to Tejosho Model Market at that time. I was coming from my house in Amuwo Dofi to my office in Yaba. I said, "Give the girl the phone." She took the phone and I said, "What church do you go to?" She mentioned a not so popular Pentecostal church. I said, "Look, I am a Celestian, but do you believe God can heal you now?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Close those same eyes that can't see anymore." This was within 45 minutes of being blind. And I prayed with her and I sang the celestial hymn. Òkùnkùn kò lè borí ìmọ́lẹ̀, òkùnkùn kò lè borí òṣùpá, ìràwọ̀ méje ń forí balẹ̀ fún ògo ìjọ mímọ́. And I said, "Open your eyes." And then I asked her, "Can you see?" And she said, "Yes, sir."
Jesus Christ.
But for me, that is not the essence of Christianity.
Jesus Christ. So that was a miracle on the spot.
It was a miracle, but that is not what I am going to celebrate.
Just because God spoke to you and minister that you should do that from your car.
We didn't need to see. Because Kunle Hamilton was not the one that did it. That was God. Now, what can Kunle Hamilton do? I can teach people to get to the point where they take decisions to do better with their lives. And that for me is the biggest miracle.
The miracle of moral turnaround.
Honestly, when somebody decides, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to be a true ambassador of Christ in me, the hope of glory. I met a young man because one of my young girls in the ministry had gone with our church choir to minister in CCC Oyingbo Parish. At that point, this young man, tall, very slim, when he sings gospel juju, it will carry you away.
With his gifts.
He will be singing as if the breeze is carrying him like this. So, when they were in their church, this young lady, Lydia, by marriage now she has become a pastor in Christ Embassy. But then herself and the entire family were Celestians. So they were under my tutelage in Shaddaiville. Walked up to the young man and said, "I want to invite you to our fellowship." Now, what is instructive is that even though this guy was a member of the choir, even though he was going to church, and I'm not trying to run down the parish, he could have been a member of any other parish. The parish was not responsible for the decisions he had taken about his life. At least not totally responsible. Yeah. This guy had failed, could not continue education after WAEC because his father, his mother were irresponsible, not because they were so poor. So he said life became so brutish that he decided that Alagbara alone Janwita, those were his words. So as at that time, the guy would wake up in the morning and go to the motor park. He became a motor park tout. But he was a Christian and a Celestian. And the parish could do nothing about that. He will sing in the choir, he will go back to his motor park tout life. The funny thing was when the villa, that's what we call our members, Shaddaiville. So Villa invited her. He confessed to me when he was sharing the testimony of his life that he just smiled and said, by Lomoshe easy to. So he came to the fellowship. That's one more.
It's interesting.
He said, but when he got to Shaddaiville, that I did not preach that day. Now, let me tell you, we have a chapel here, air-conditioned and all of that. We have grown, we have progressed. But back then, our meeting was right in front of this building, under the hot sun. He said he just noticed that everybody that got up to say something was either a university graduate or a university or polytechnic undergraduate, including the girl that he chased to the place. She was in Unilag at the time. He said when he went back home after 90 minutes of fellowship,
that's humiliation somehow.
After 90 minutes of fellowship, he decided that, Omo, you have to do something about your life. He said he loved the fellowship, but he knew that he could not fit into the fellowship.
It was not his class.
You know what he did?
What's that?
He went back and rewrote his WAEC.
Jesus Christ.
He applied himself so much, he got admitted into University of Ibadan.
Just by the message of ambience.
Yes, please. Today, this young man lives in America.
I can't believe it, sir.
The day he shared his testimony, even my wife was weeping. My wife said to me, I'm sorry, my darling husband, that I sometimes complain that you give yourself too much into this ministry. But with this guy's testimony, the young man said, it's not as if I don't have parents. It's just that they don't represent responsible parenthood for him. But it was in Shaddaiville that he found his real parents, and that's Daddy Hamilton. He's the reason I'm no longer a motor parked out. He's the reason I now have a degree certificate from the University of Ibadan. He's the reason I now have a US visa and on my way for further schooling in the United States. That for me is a miracle.
So this is very, this somehow overwhelming. I can't believe this because in our society, with total honor, I have to let you know this, that we have a lot of people that you look at time, you want to take them as role model, but when you get close to them, you think they are leaders, but eventually you discover that they are dealers.
They're what?
They're dealers, not leaders. So you
I like your rhyme.
Yes, sir. So you keep close and you say, oh, this person can motivate me. But when you get closer, instead of finding the leader, you find a dealer. And eventually, you fall at the very lowest rung of the moral ladder. You know, so, but with the testimony now of a young man who came into the ambience thinking that he was chasing a lady into Shaddaiville, but when he saw the quality of character, the content of their intellectualism, the content of their esteem, he was flogged and he decided to reinvent himself. So how do you feel when you see this kind of people and when your leadership train this kind of people? I think there are more than 1,000 now because I'm very familiar, and anytime I come I keep wondering.
That's it since 2007. We've done it in Nigeria, we're doing it in the UK, we've done it in the Federal Republic of Germany, we have done it in America. I don't think the number can be less than 2,000 now. Mostly Africans, Nigerians, Jamaican, Ethiopian, and I thank God for it. Honestly, if anything can give me joy like my own biological family, it's my spiritual family. Not money in a bank account. I give all into my ministry. Now, you see, people don't understand that the difference between a ministry and a church is that in a church, people are wired to bring plenty of money to church. They are not that wired in ministry. In ministry, you are the one giving to the people. So when God decides to now make the people you have trained to give back to you, you are already structured to see what you receive as plowback money. So for me, it is an unending investment into people's lives. Our leadership training everywhere in the world, Nigeria, UK, Germany, America, is free. We don't collect tuition fee.
But I learned there are some people that sponsor children, because I was here sometimes. I think the MD of is it TPT, Mr. Tokubo Modupe, was here as one of the chairman of the graduate ceremony. We did that one, I think, one of the schools environment. I don't know if it's
right.
Yeah, maybe I think Unilag or somewhere, but he was there and he was talking about sponsoring
the Federal Teachers College in Akoka.
Yes, I'm talking about 2010 or something like that, a long time ago. 2011, 2012, yeah. And the TPT boss was there, and some people I saw, I think one of the biggest musicians, Shola Lisin, was also the minister, the entertainment minister that day. And we were talking about people who are coming out to say they want to offer, what can I call it, sponsorship. They want to sponsor 3, sponsor 4, sponsor 5. So, sir, how do you think a lot of people can gain? Because the truth of the matter is that some people are watching in UK, in America right now, and they have children in Nigeria that they want a mentorship like this to touch their life. Children that are not very, they've lost the focus, maybe because of bad fatherhood or bad motherhood. A lot of people want a mentorship that can change the life of their children. So when you say you are not taking money, how do you survive apart from people that are sponsoring 2, 3, 4, 5? Is there any way that people can reach out to you and sponsor more?
Thank you very much. You know, my desire is to do what we're doing now on a much larger scale. I would like, rather than be saying today that we've affected the lives of 2,000 people, I would have preferred to say we've affected the lives of 2 million people. But to scale up what we do means that we need bigger facilities, if not self-built, which will take a longer time, than with enough money to hire such facilities. How we've grown, for example, is when we started, it was in the hot sun. So we used to start very early in the morning before the sun comes out. As I speak to you today, we have diesel generator, we have air conditioning. Our students in the last 2-3 cycles have been doing their leadership training like it's an executive MBA class.
they didn't know the suffer of the Europe past.
When I tell them the history of where we started, they laugh, you know. So well-meaning Nigerians, and you see, people like Toks Modukwe, one of our own, he's a fellow of Shaddaiville. We enjoy that. As busy as someone like my brother Toks is in his own industry, he finds time to lend support to what we're doing because he's seen it. I mean, he's been a guest speaker at 2 or 3 of our graduation ceremonies. Someone else that I cherish a lot is Toyosi Ogunsheye, who is a BBC West Africa regional chief. She has also taken up sponsorship of what we do before to support it. In fact, Toyosi has done that in Germany. She's done that for us in the US. We need more people. Toyosi is not even a Celestian.
That's interesting, sir.
Yeah, she's not even a Celestian.
Can't believe it.
But you know, Toyosi is one of the most deregulated, if there's a word like that, detribalized, decolonized from denomination mentality. I sold Sultana for Toyosi, even though she's not a Celestian. She asked me to do that because, like they say, the hood does not make the monk. But that was her way of interpreting what the Bible says. Show love to all brothers, all sisters. So we would welcome any kind of support that allows us to scale up what we're doing, so that rather than teach, say, 100 people or 50 people at a time, we have a venue where we can teach 1,000 people at a time. That's what we're looking at. I enjoy what, even though his is not a religious platform, I enjoy what Tony Lumelu is doing for young African entrepreneurs on a large scale. That's what churches should be doing. Although I see some churches trying to do the same thing, but they're doing it for a fee.
So before we go to the issue of church, because you're a church leader, let me take you back to the issue of the youth sector. Sir, we told one of the chief reasons why I started looking for you in the last 6 months is that we have a youth congregation that is going banal in Nigeria, in Africa. You see a lot of young people, on social media, who are going banal with tattoo. They dye their head. The kind of life they want to live is like, you look at it, that in 10, 20 years, it's going to be either God forgive, a pornographic life, or a life that is not very valuable to the society. A lot of people are just carried away by the achievement of others. Sir, when you see an average youth in Nigeria, what do you think the problem of the new generation youth, what do you think is the real problem, apart from you, non-state actors, taking the challenge of leadership? What do you think government can do? How do you think government can help you? Not just political government, but even organizational governments, multinationals. How do you think they can help you to take a lot of young people back into the orientation of the 80s, 40s in terms of leadership? Not what we are seeing today, whereby people are sagging, people are dyeing their hair, people are doing tattoo, people are just living a kind of life that does not imply that they want to be part of a system that is great.
Benga, this question is really deep, and the answer is even deeper. Because I remember back in secondary school, I went to Igbobi College. I was in the boarding school. I remember when the newspapers carried the strange news that the then NYSC boss, I will not want to mention the family name, that the then NYSC boss, NYSC was a fresh phenomenon in Nigeria at the time, had corruptly enriched himself with NYSC funds. His son was in Igbobi College. His son was my senior in Igbobi College. The shame for him was so much, he ran away from boarding school, ran away from school for a while. Today, if newspapers carry stories that parents have gone to jail for corruption, their children are going to be seen moving around in the luxury cars that their parents funded with the looted money, and nobody is going to say anything wrong. In fact, people who should make such children ashamed will be the ones begging those same children for money. Now, government is responsible for and not just one government. Several governments, several administrations in Nigeria, they are directly responsible for mismanaging the economy, but not only that. They are also the ones influencing the mindsets of the Nigerian youth negatively to make the Nigerian youth think it is okay to steal. I also want to go into government to go and make my own money. Church leadership is not helping as we should. Church leaders are also being seen as equally corrupt as politicians. That's not good for the church. Same thing for those in mosques. Everybody has become so money-minded. Yep. Now, if one does any diligent evaluation, you're likely to find out that you will find a pastor's child, an elder's child, an imam's child among the top list of cultists, kidnappers in this country today. Meanwhile, their parents are busy making money in the mosques and in the churches and deceiving people on how to lead their lives. Whereas back in their own homes, their children are a pure disgrace both to their family name as well as the name of the country. So how do we save ourselves? I tell people that since I'm not a politician, I can only start by appealing to those of us in the church to get the church back to the straight and narrow path. Change the message from the pulpit, from all this prosperity motivational rubbish, where we have churches more than we have manufacturing companies. You're not telling your members what the Bible says about wealth is. It doesn't say God will give you wealth. It says God will teach your hands to make wealth. How does a minister take that kind of message and transform it into a prayer point? What you're supposed to do is show the church the principles of using your hands to make wealth. Drive the hard principles of hard work, the hard principles of integrity. Don't steal your employer's money. Drive that on the church pulpit. Don't go on the streets and prostitute. Don't go into people's offices and prostitute. Don't go to the lotto company and hoping that you will become rich overnight. Do the hard work. That's all I can say. If church leaders can begin to correct that, then we can begin to influence politics. But we need to correct ourselves first and foremost. In my church, for instance, we are still a small family. You understand? Things are developed in such a way that our members tell themselves that, do you know that no member of the pastorate must hear that you're doing this thing you're doing? If you don't change, I will report you to Daddy KH myself. Husbands and wives tell themselves at home that if you don't change, I'll report you to Daddy KH. Now, when church is not like that, and husband and wife know that, who do you want to go and report to in church when his own is even worse than our own? Then church cannot help the country. If politicians can see church as a place to go and flash money, then church cannot help the country. So to make church help the country, we must go back to modest living. We must not be seen promoting prosperity. We should be seen promoting righteousness, salvation. It does not mean that we will not have rich people amongst us, but then we will be promoting rich people with integrity, not rich people that are looting.
So this is a very deep one, and I think it's a message for the world, not just for Nigeria alone. Sir, the area of church is very touchy and it's very, it's crazy too. It's very sympathetic. Something that make my heart growl at times and to cry. You know, it's something devastating as well. Let me use that language. Sir, when you look at the church today, you look at a pastor whose wife ran away and said she cannot be in the marriage again because this pastor has done XYZ sin. He has slept with people in the choir, he has done that, he has done this. And all these people are still, they still have people coming to their church. They should lay hand on them for marriage counselors. They still act as marriage counselors. Then you have a lot of churches whereby even the man of God, the one in charge, he has slept with not less than 10 women that have had children for him. Now, a society that is built around the triumvirate of church, home, and school. Then when we lose it in the school, when we lose it at home, because parents that are looking for money, they are looking for their ends meet, then how do you think church can now help? Because they still run. Church is the last bus stop that they can run to, whereby, because when we were young, it was church, the Sunday school that we learn some of those things. So how do you feel today when you see men of God whosoever are run away or who are busy sleeping with women in their own church and they see lead parishes on Sunday and they see even lay hand on young people that are marrying? How does that make you feel as a clergy and as a leadership expert?
Again, very sad. It's not for nothing that the Bible says that a bishop must be the husband of one wife.